React to the Google earnings. How are they? Google earnings. Alphabet beat earnings and revenue expectations on Tuesday afternoon, but investors still sent its stock lower. Dude, that's so funny. The stocks have become so overstretched, the big tech stocks, that even when their earnings beat expectations, if they don't beat it by enough, the stock falls. Because people are betting ahead of the earnings that they're going to be great already. So they run up pre-earnings and then they sell on the news because they're not good enough. They have to surprise. It's impossible to overstate how unique our current market is. It's unheard of to have these very few multi-trillion-dollar stocks and everything else doing down to bad and everything going to these stocks. Unique in a good or bad way. It's bad. It's bad, dude. It's like the lowest, you'd call it breadth of a stock market, which is how few companies it takes to drive it up. We've never had this little breadth. I mean, it's the closest time is 2001, which is the dot-com bubble. It's very, very, very narrow. Is the market top heavy? Extremely top heavy. It's never been this top heavy. What companies were most valuable in the dot-com bubble? The most valuable companies in the dot-com bubble were companies like Cisco and Nortel that sold the infrastructure of the coming internet boom. But even companies that were eventually good, like Amazon, lost 90% of their value in the dot-com bubble bursting. Everything was so ahead of its skis, What was the dot-com bubble? The dot-com bubble was a period in the late 90s and early 2000s, ending in 2001, when everybody was investing in internet stocks because the internet was this next big thing that was going to change the world. And so they dumped billions and billions of dollars into any company that put .com in their name or said they knew that they had an internet thing. And of course, we all know the internet would eventually change the world and it was valuable. But investors often front run these things and they dump all this money before it's there. It's too early. And so in 2001, the dot-com bubble burst and all of these companies lost 80-90% of their value or went bankrupt. For example, pets.com was you can order pet food on the internet. And they had a Super Bowl commercial and they were fucking huge. And then they went bankrupt. And that kind of business didn't exist for 20 years till it was ready. It is related to Y2K and or Enron and or 9/11. The dot-com bubble bursting is a big part of why Enron's accounting fraud was found out. They could no longer access cheap money in the middle of a recession and they couldn't keep their Ponzi going. They couldn't keep their scheme going. And 9/11, I guess, factors into people being spooked in the stock market, but I think it would happen regardless. And then the first one, no. I had a professor that left a failed .com to go to Blockbuster. Dude, poor guy. He left a fucking internet bubble to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to a safe, stable company like Blockbuster. That'll have my pension for me. What if we had a reverse 9/11 that would reverse the economy? So somehow a building rebuilds itself and two planes fly out of it and everyone's happy and we have less geopolitical tension. Might be the move. An 11-9, if you will. That just sounds like building an airport. Yeah, I guess. What if we just build an airport on 11-9? Would that solve the problems? I guess also the reverse 9/11 though could be what if a building hits two planes? A very tall building falls over on two planes flying by. That would be a disaster just as big. If not, I mean, that would be terrible. So if we have that, I don't think that would be helpful. Hey Shark, what are your thoughts on political betting sites? I feel like it's just sport betting for nerds. I'm all in for Shapiro as VP right now. Yeah, that's what it is. It's sports betting for political nerds. Or whatever, people that follow the news. You've nailed it. I have nothing to add to that conversation. It's the same as all gambling where, you can lose a lot of money if you're addicted, I guess. Just be careful. I don't think it's crazy to put a joke amount of money on someone to win. But sports betting is also for nerds. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That's why I said nerds that follow the news. Smart money likes Kelly. Smart money likes Kelly. Okay. For what it's worth, I am leaning towards Kelly or Bashir for vice president. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Kamala was, prior to Biden dropping out, polling very poorly. And we don't really have the data yet, but after she's become the nominee, it feels like there's been a bit of a vibe shift. The first poll that came out had her numbers up closer to Trump, still losing, but closer, a lot closer than Biden was. Her fundraising has been unreal. 100 million in a day from 80 million from individual donors, some of them new time donors. The coconut fan cams, maybe. I mean, Gen Z clearly, at least from the social media perspective, Gen Z's more excited than they were, ironically or not. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a closer race. What really is interesting to me is whether or not they do the debate, because that could be such a shifter. The debate gets 50 million Americans to tune in. If they do a debate, It would be interesting. But I think the only way they do the debate is if Kamala can get the polls close enough to where the other side's nervous. I will say this, especially if Kamala picks Andy Bashir as her VP, JD Vance is looking more and more like a dud. JD Vance is really not made for any kind of close race. His speeches are bad. He doesn't have any riz. Yeah, like the only thing I gave him credit for is something that doesn't play with Americans at all, which is like he is open to pro-labor action and he's pro-Lena Khan. Nobody knows who the fuck that is. He can't, that's not gonna get him any votes. I mean, that speech about Mountain Dew being racist was a dud, dude. So we'll see. I swear to God, it's like, if he doesn't pick it up, I could see Trump dropping it, bro. Trump has never hesitated to drop someone in the past. If you don't help him out, I think Trump could fucking switch it up. It's so unprecedented that like I would say that never would happen, but only person who could do it was Trump. He made a Mountain Dew racist speech. No, he said, he said, liberals call everything racist. I had a Mountain Dew today. I had a Mountain Dew yesterday. They'll probably call that racist. And he like does this to the audience. And like, this is an audience primed to eat that up. And they were just like, they were kind of meh. You got an offer letter from a startup company as your first job out of college, but the offer letter gave you a smaller salary than advertised. When you say advertised, do you mean agreed upon in an interview, or what? What do you mean by advertised? When did you hear about the salary? The listing had the salary on it? That's pretty rare. What kind of salary are we talking? On Indeed, it was 28 to 35 an hour, and they're offering 23. Many states now require a range. Yeah, they'll give you the range if you ask because of legal reasons, but it's usually really wide. You could ask. It's up to you, man, whether how badly you need this job and whether you have other opportunities or what. You can always ask. You can be like, hey, this was advertised at this. Is there a reason? Depends on how your negotiating position, whether they think they can fill it instantly, whether you have no other options. Yeah, you could also just take it, work there, search for another job while you're there, find a different job, come back, say, hey, listen, I like this job a lot, but the salary's too low. See if they can match. That's the way to do it. I just wouldn't flip out. Big A, I have a membership to FT Edit, and I feel like it's a lot of opinions. Financial Times is, in my opinion, extremely worth it, but your call. FT is the one I read every day. I love the FT. It gives me a good sense of what's going on in the world. And then I drill deeper at other places. I learned what the FTC does from your videos. I found your channel a few weeks ago. Keep up the great work. Tip Nikki, I love to hear that. I actually love to hear that. What a nice thing to feel that I have done is introduce somebody to at least one piece of actual knowledge that helps them in their life. That's good. No, I'm serious. Thank you. I read this 500-page book because of you, Truck, and it was honestly kind of mid. I don't know which book you're talking about. What's the 500-page book? You read financial history and you thought it was mid? Bro, if you internalize that, you're like you are literally leaps and bounds ahead of anyone else talking about financial history. You actually have a nice solid baseline to that's crazy to call that mid after reading the whole thing. I feel like that there's so much knowledge. My Robin Hood begs to differ. I can't believe I don't even think you read it, bro. You read investing in U.S. financial history and yet are still actively stock picking on Robin Hood. Big A, when we are getting the new book for book club, can we do Harry Potter next? Do you guys want to do a Harry Potter book club where every day we devour a new Harry Potter book and then talk about how great it is and how flawless it is and how there's no flaws in the world building or universe? I would rather die. Interesting. Avada! It would be so funny for a video to do a book club about Hungry Caterpillar. To like get people together for a book club, but then I make the book The Hungry Caterpillar, and then we all have to discuss it and read it seriously. I was gifted a book called Age of Greed by Jeff Madrick. Have you ever heard of it? I have not heard of it, but you tell me if it's good. It sounds like it's up my alley. I'm behind in a couple books. I had like 2 or 3 books arrive at once, and so I'm trying to finish Anatomy of a Bear. I'm sorry. The political implications. Yeah, exactly. I want to know like what the socioeconomic parallels are in The Hungry Caterpillar. What if The Hungry Caterpillar was hungry for knowledge instead, perhaps? This is your first chat message. Your first chat message is opining on the Hungry Caterpillar. Bro's the thinker.